On February 2nd, 1983, 500,000 rain-drenched people lined the streets of Washington, D.C. to welcome home a world champion. For the first time in 40 years, Washington ruled the football world, and the NFL's Coach of the Year, Joe Gibbs, gladly shared the glory with an entire city.
I don't think today could be a greater testimony to the fact that there's no other fans in the world that would come out on a day like this except in Washington, D.C. And I want you to know that each one of you has a small piece of this trophy today.
Hail to the Redskins! Hail victory! Braves on the warpath! Fight for old D.C.!
In his 5th year as Redskin general manager, Bobby Beathard had mixed 17 draft choices with 8 trades and 28 free agents, then watched them travel all the way to Super Bowl 17. A powerful 27-17 triumph over Miami was the realization of an impossible dream which had begun 20 weeks earlier in Philadelphia. Against the Eagles, Washington started fast on Joe Theismann's rifle right arm and the flying feet of Charlie Brown. But it was all-pro kicker Mark Mosley who tied the game at 34, then won it in overtime.
Hold is good. Kick is up long enough. It's good. Mark Mosley's toe is sent into overtime, and Mark Mosley's toe has won it in overtime. The Redskins are 1-0. The Eagles are 0-1.
In week 2, Washington got wet. A Tampa Bay monsoon made every play an adventure. Aggressive play by the Washington defense and extra effort by special teamer Curtis Jordan, who blocked a Buccaneer punt, then recovered it in the end zone, helped swamp out a second Washington win, 21-13. All season long, Redskin special teams answered the call of Coach Wayne Sevier.
Count them off, and then let's stick the leather to them. Let's go!
Return teams cleared the way for Mike Nelms, who set a Redskin career record for punt return yardage in only his 3rd season. These same men also led the entire NFC in covering both kickoffs and punts. Washington special teams were indeed special, and when the NFL strike hit, their unity helped hold the Redskins together. 8 weeks went by, but when play resumed, it was as if not one day had passed.
Hey, first hit of the game, first hit of the new season. Kick some ass.
The Redskins returned to ransack the New York Giants. The Washington defense was as ornery as ever, while Theismann and Brown were still timed to perfection. Charlie Brown scored his third touchdown in as many games, then turned matters over to the offensive line. George Stark, Jeff Bostic, Mark May, Joe Jacoby, Fred Dean, and Russ Grimm blasted holes for running backs Clarence Harmon and John Riggins. This hard rock running game helped pound out a 27-17 win over the Giants. The offensive line had come on strong thanks to the weight training program provided by strength coach Dan Riley and a nickname given to them by their line coach Joe Bugle. Bugle simply called them the Hogs.
Just happened one day at practice at summer camp. I said, "Okay, you Hogs, let's get down to the bullpen down there." And the guys kind of chuckled about it because I use it as more or less an affectionate term. All of a sudden, this bunch really started hanging together. They become closer and closer and closer. They played hard together, and it's really mushroomed.
Suddenly, Washington was investing in hog futures. These huge porkers weren't graceful or pretty, but they sure loved their work. And so it was that the capital of the free world became hog heaven, and only one outsider was allowed to join the exclusive fraternity, a groundhog named John Riggins. Behind his vintage swine, Riggins added another analogy. He was also known as the Diesel.
Look out, killer, here comes the Diesel. Yes, sir, here it comes on 395.
While Riggins ran over an opponent, scatback Joe Washington improvised his way as the Washington Redskins went hog wild, even quarterback Joe Theismann. Theismann's block won him the Hog's love and the title Honorary Piglet. But Joe's specialty was not blocking. It was dashing. The dash play looked like a straight drop back, then sent number 7 sprinting out behind his pulling Hogs. This controlled scramble took advantage of Theismann's mobility and gave him extra time to find the open man. Joe dashed all season, completing 64% of his passes to receivers of all shapes and sizes. A powerful tight end like Don Warren, or a sleek and graceful wide receiver named Art Monk, who was tall enough to play over a cornerback's head. Also available were tiny receivers who could run under a defender's armpits. Number 89 was 5'7", Alvin Garrett, while his larger friend, Virgil C., towered 5'8". Joe Theismann had a nickname ready.
Alvin, where's Virgil? Hey, Smurf, Virgil!
You know, it's amazing. Virgil's the smallest guy in the ball club. He's the only guy sitting down watching the game on the ground.
Soon, Washington wanted to know, what's a Smurf?
Smurf 1 and Smurf 2 back into the game. What's that mean? Smurf? You know, haven't you seen the little blue-faced dolls the kids have? No. Smurfs, you haven't seen them on television, Sam? You got to get up on Saturday morning and watch TV. You see them Smurfs all the time.
The Smurfs were protected by the Hogs, coached by all-time great Redskin receiver Charlie Taylor, and befriended by a sort of super Smurf 5' 10" Charlie Brown, who played much taller. After a year on injured reserve, Brown took a flying leap at NFL starter. Charlie Brown had defenders crying, "Good grief," as he scored 10 touchdowns in 13 games, made the Pro Bowl, and averaged over 20 yards per spectacular catch.
Hand to Riggins, end around to Monk, pitch back to Theismann, lets it go deep. He's got Charlie Brown down there, well covered. He makes the catch at the 5 and dives to the 2. Charlie Brown, what an incredible catch. Whoa, what a play.
Against Philadelphia, Brown led Washington on a victory march, and the Redskins dashed to their 4th straight win. Brown was averaging a touchdown per game as offensive assistants Don Breaux, Warren Simmons, and Dan Henning congratulated the NFL's only undefeated coach, Joe Gibbs. In the bizarre beginning of 1982, the undefeated Redskins were threatening to run away and hide from the rest of the NFL. Cynics said the Redskins were nothing but a joke and waited for them to self-destruct. In December, the Dallas Cowboys came to town and tripped up the Redskins. In a 24-10 defeat, Theismann was sacked 7 times as the confident Cowboys had the last laugh. The doomsayers predicted the end of Washington's title hopes, but Dave Butts was determined not to let them die. The next week in St. Louis, Butts and the blue-collar boys of the Washington defense rolled up their sleeves and went to work. The defense held St. Louis to a touchdown, and Mark Mosley hammered out 4 field goals for a 12-7 Washington win. 1 week later, in the snows of RFK, the defense held New York to 139 total yards. With time almost gone, Washington trailed 14-12, leaving Mosley one chance to make history.
A 42-yard attempt, plenty long enough. It's good! Mark Mosley has broken the National Football League record.
Mosley's record 23rd consecutive field goal provided a heart-stopping 15-14 win over the Giants, and Washington fans knew a championship defense was shaping up. Barging up the middle was Dave Butts. Covering the outside was cat-quick Dexter Manley, number 72. Closing down from the other end was number 76, Matt Mendenhall. Sharing time were Perry Brooks and number 77, Darrell Grant, with pass rushing specialist Tony McGee. Defensive coaches Richie Pettibone, Torgy Torgerson, Larry Peccatello, and Bill Hickman preached pursuit and gang tackling. Especially active were the linebackers, Mel Kaufman, Neil Olkowitz, and Rich Millott, supported by backups Monty Coleman and Larry Cuban. This unsung Washington defense gave up the fewest points in the NFL, thanks to hitters like strong safety Tony Peters. Rookie Vernon Dean stepped in at cornerback and made all the big plays, while nickelback Joe Lavender provided veteran stability. Cornerback Jarris White played in his 129th consecutive NFL game and led Washington with 5 interceptions, while the team's leading tackler for the 4th straight season was free safety Mark Murphy. The blue-collar boys were working their way to the playoffs. They demolished the New Orleans Saints 27-10, then constructed the first Redskins shutout in 2 years against St. Louis. Washington worked the Cardinals over, 28-0, and Joe Theismann threw his 12th and 13th touchdown passes of the season, including one to tight end Rick Walker. Walker and the Redskins had been working on high fives all year, and while some of the youngsters had trouble picking it up, everyone finally got their act together, and the Fun Bunch was born. The Fun Bunch celebrated an 8-1 record, the best in the NFL. And chairman of the board, Jack Kent Cook, spoke for the entire city.
I am in a state of ecstasy. Never mind that nonsense about euphoria and so on. It is sheer, unadulterated, uncompromising ecstasy.
The Redskins were ready. Just ahead lay the NFL playoffs. Washington opened the playoffs at home against Detroit with some ominous signs on the horizon. Art Monk was out with a stress fracture, and workhorse John Riggins had missed the final regular season game with a bruised thigh. But Joe Gibbs knew his defense was peaking at just the right time.
The Lions driving towards the end zone to our right. 3 wide receivers. To the near side is Porter, flanked out to the far side. Leonard Thompson and David Hill. Back to pass is Hipple. Rushes on, gets it off near side. Picked off! Picked off by Jarris White. He's gone. He's going 70 yards. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
Jarris White's touchdown got Washington started in the right direction, and Art Monk's Smurfish replacement looked 10 feet tall. Alvin Garrett had only 1 reception during the regular season. In the playoffs, he would catch 15 passes for 5 touchdowns, including 3 against Detroit. Only Smurf-like kindness spared the Lions further embarrassment. Riggins hunkered down behind his fellow Hogs and began an incredible journey behind a crushing lead block thrown by Otis Walmsley. The Diesel was off on the longest haul in the history of the NFL playoffs. Riggins rushed for 610 yards in 4 playoff games, beginning with 119 against the Lions in a crushing 31-7 Washington victory. But Russ Grimm and the Hogs were still getting no respect.
See who wins. Today we won. They said that they're going to come in here, they're the butchers and we're the hogs. The thing they forgot is before a hog goes to the butcher, somebody got to kill it, and nobody even come close today.
The Minnesota Vikings came no closer the next week. The Vikings spent all day looking for a place to hang on to this runaway truck. Then Riggins and the Redskins crossed them up. Theismann completed 68% of his playoff passes for 8 touchdowns. With the Redskins leading 21-7, Riggins simply ran out the clock.
Riggins gets the carry, coming near side, cuts back against the grain to the 30, to the 35, breaks it loose to the 40. He's to midfield, down to the 45 of the Vikings. Big run, John Riggins.
John Riggins had carried 37 times for 185 yards. But already Redskin fans were looking ahead to a Dallas rematch. The NFC title was at stake, but even more was on the line. Washington's Warriors were duty-bound to avenge their only loss.
Pull up those socks, defense. Let's see what happens. Gets the snap. Back. Blitz is on. Check. Fumble the football. It's down at the 40-yard line. Danny White looks like he's knocked out. Oh, he is out. Dallas, the chant still goes. I tell you, that's got to be intimidating. 50,000 people screaming, "We want Dallas." Play action fake to Dorsett. Hit the ball well. Set up a screen, batted in the air, picked off by Darryl Grant. Touchdown, Washington Redskins! I don't believe it. Unbelievable. Dexter Manley tipped the pass. Darryl Grant got the interception, and now the stadium shakes. Oh, they're going crazy at RFK. Look at this. Look at
this. Washington defeated Dallas 31-17 for one of the most glorious victories in the Redskins' 42-year history. This assortment of Smurfs, Hogs, Fun Bunchers, and blue-collar boys had proved their critics wrong and united to form a true team, the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. Hail to Joe Gibbs and the Washington Redskins, champions of the world for 1982.